So, in dealing with stress, what are some of the techniques we can use to manage stress?
So managing the stress, I have found that personally what works for me is bringing awareness to stress. Often we can be in a state of awareness, of not awareness, of our stress. And really tuning in and seeing what is manifesting and how it's manifesting in our bodies. So bringing that awareness to how our bodies react to stress. And one of the things that really are affected with stress is our breathing.
Uh-huh.
So you'll know that if you get stressed, and often we are breathing from the chest, often we can come into this hyperventilation kind of breath. So by working with our breath, we can change our body and our mind as well. So when we're in that stress, we are in our flight or fight mode. So by bringing in breathing techniques, we can help to calm down the mind. We can help to release any stress that's in the body and come back to that feeling of calm, of presence.
Is there anything else other than breathing which can help us?
I feel as well, like I said, the awareness. So by doing body scans is often really, really useful to see where the stress is living in our bodies. So that could be in our shoulders. Our shoulders often come up towards our ears, create tension. We can place and locate the stress in our body, whether we feel that in our hearts, whether we feel in knots in our stomach. And by bringing that awareness to that place, we allow the stress or tension to relax just by simply bringing our awareness to it.
You know, I've been dealing with stress, dealing with myself and helping others deal with it. And some of the things I have found in the past working beyond breathing. Breathing, I think, is the best technique because it has an amazing effect on our physiology. Because it can instantly, in fact, we in JoyScore, we started developing content which is short because sometimes, we had content, podcast, which went anywhere from few minutes to half hour and things like that. But then lately, we have learned that people have very little time, or they keep complaining about that they don't have time. So my approach is, well, do you have a minute? Yes. I can give you joy in less than a minute, So whether it's breathing, music, other meditations.
Yeah, meditation.
Yeah, the thing which I learned, and this is something which came from my working with my students in design class, where we dealt with products which would help solve a problem. So one of the products which my students designed was, they called it an executive toy. So in discussion, what is an executive toy? It's essentially something which could sit on a CEO of a major company who often can be overly stressed and have brain freeze, meaning they feel they are not able to think anymore, do anything. They're just frozen. And this executive toy, you pick up and start playing with it, and it creates what we call a distraction. So you lose yourself for a brief moment that you are even stressed, because you start playing with something. And that reality of forgetting that you're stressed and start playing with something causes that distraction and gets them going again, rather than being frozen. So it's almost like a technique. And then I, years later, learned it from when I went to Harvard Business School from a professor who talked about saying that we all need to learn to go to the balcony, which is again, in a way, take a break from where you are, or if you're stressed, take a break, just stop doing what you're doing. So you said awareness, that is so true.
Yeah.
If you can recognize that, okay, you're stressed right now, so let's do something about it, You could go for a walk, you can drink some water, you can breathe, you can do a little yoga or meditation or anything which is going to take your mind off that stress or whatever it is that is causing you stress. Now, obviously, it would be very helpful if you could learn where the stress is coming from. Because sometimes it helps to know what's causing the stress.
Yes.
The root cause of it. And that has two benefits. One, that you learn something about yourself, that these are the things which cause you stress. In fact, one of the techniques I'm working on right now, where we're kind of developing a program where people write down things to do, or list of things to do, and then you prioritize them. Okay, sometimes the stress is also caused by we worrying about things that we have to do. Oh my God, I have to do so many things, and I hope I don't forget to do that because that's very important. So you kind of keep repeating yourself in your mind and keep going in a racket where you're stressed out because you have few things to do. Well, if you make a list of things to do, then okay, I have so many things to do. And then you can sit down and look at your list and say, okay, let me prioritize it. So if I don't get number 5 done, it's okay, but number 3 has to be done. Or number 4 has to be done. So let's prioritize them. Let's put number 1 in front of what is most important that needs to be done. So once you prioritize it, the immediate benefit of that is that your mind says, okay, number 1, I have a list that I can work with, so I don't have to keep thinking about it. When I have time and I can do something, I'll go back and look at my list and say, okay, I got to work on this number 1 item. So you don't constantly just keep repeating yourself in your mind that you have things to do. Number 2, you list things which bring you joy.
Yes.
So number 1 is to list things to do. Number 2 is the things, list of things which bring you joy. And number 3, list things which give you stress or they are stressors. So then you say, okay, let me now, this is almost like your mind map. You look at your list and say, okay, these are the things I have to do. these are the things which bring me joy, and these are the things which bring me stress. So I want to do more of the things which bring me joy and less of the things which bring me stress. So it's almost like learning about yourself, because sometimes we don't know who we are. We can be comfortable, happy, productive people in the society, but we are somehow gotten used to being stressed. And sometimes the stress causes stress.
Yeah, 100%.
You compound your stress. Oh my God, I'm stressed.
Mhm.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
what caused you stress? Let's look at it. What caused you stress? And then number two, what can we do to manage your stress? I mean, if your stress is not going to go away, but you can manage it. You can find a way to get out of it. So,
Mhm.
the life is about learning who you are. And JoyScore, in a way, has a complete program to teach us how to live. Because when we grow up, nobody gave us a little booklet or a manual to live from. I say, okay, this is how you live. When you buy a car, they give you a manual. They say, okay, this is how you operate this car, so you don't screw it up. But we got this amazing body and life, and nobody gave us a manual and say, hey, this is your self-help book, how to live, manage yourself. So the Joy Score talks about all these different aspects of our life, and that's not all, there are many more, but at least those I found to be the very fundamental or basic to managing our life.
Yeah.
And it all actually, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think it's so important for us to get tools to help manage stress, because everyone experiences it. Even younger people experience stress, and it's something that's becoming more and more common with how our lifestyle's adapting as well. It seems like it's a very good thing to be busy all the time. When you ask someone how they are, the first response they say is busy, and we praise that. And with this busyness also comes stress as well. And something I read that really stuck with me was that stress isn't out there, it's in here. So we have to realize what triggers the stress that lives in us. What triggers the stress that happens to us? Because the stress isn't out there. Situations can bring that stress. Certain places can bring that stress. What is it you do where you can feel yourself change, swap from that calm and into that stress? And like you said, writing that down, journaling is such a great tool to find, where is it? Where do I find myself getting stressed? Is it a specific place? Is it work? Is it when I have a long to-do list, when I don't prioritize? And really using that as a way to manage, because we're always going to come up against it. But using these things as a way to manage our stress and learn how to be with it.
When you teach, and I decided to teach because I wanted to be good at what I do. And I learned early on that the way to master something is to teach it. Because I studied masters in architecture, and that was a project given, or I decided to do for my research, to study 5 masters in architecture. And I was supposed to develop a methodology to research it and present it to the class, and that was the project. So a few weeks after researching 5 masters, I came back to my professor. I said, I'm not able to find a lot of commonality. Like, I was trying to come up with a matrix where I can present it to the class that, look, these are the things you need to do to be a successful architect or a master in architecture. I couldn't find anything. There weren't any commonalities. So I come back to him. I said, listen, I can't find anything. This project is becoming very difficult or pointless. He said, there got to be something. I said, well, the only thing I could find was that they all were, in addition to being architects, they were also teaching architecture somewhere. He said, why do you think I am teaching here? Because that's the reason I'm teaching, because I have a very successful architectural practice. And actually, I have to take time out of my practice to come here and teach, because I find it the most rewarding thing to do. So when I got married, I told my wife, I said, I have to teach. She said, why do you have to teach? I said, because I want to be good at what I'm doing. So she said, you see, yeah, that's what I have to do. So anyway, so I have spent my life teaching now, being a professor, and I became the youngest full professor in the CSU history years ago. But anyway, so I have the most rewarding thing I have done in my life is to teach, because that has helped me so much in excelling in everything I do. So there is something I talk about in my classes and in design we call perception. Do you know what perception means?
Yeah, the way you see something.
Right. So human mind is very interesting in a way. To a human mind, perception is reality. Irrespective of what the reality is, if you perceive that you're joyful, that would become your reality.
Yeah.
Or if you let your mind remind you or keep telling you something negative, that perception would become your reality. So in some ways, we create the reality for ourselves by having a perception that we have. So, Harvard Business School is one of the best business schools in the world. And when I had a bunch of companies that I owned and ran and made a lot of money, I realized that I'm a professor, I'm an architect, I don't have any formal business education to have all these businesses. So a friend of mine recommended I go to this OPM program in Harvard Business School, and I did. And I learned a lot, which I didn't know, even though I was doing things from common sense and doing a lot of it right, but learning it in a good way means a lot. So one of the things I learned from one of the professors there, the art of writing things down. So he tracked Harvard business graduates for 30 years. Now, do you understand or know what is net worth? It's
yes.
What is it?
Net worth? How much? If your net worth is how much like you and your business, are worth, I suppose. Yeah. Right. How much money is with it? Yeah.
So it's like when you don't have money, you think about money.
Mhm.
But when you have money, you think about net worth. And net worth is your assets minus liabilities. So it's like if you have $100 in your bank and you owe $50, your net worth is $50, right? Because that's your actual worth. So he tracked. Now, Harvard Business School or business school graduates always think in terms of net worth. That's how they're trained to think about money. It's like they don't care about a lot of other things, but they care about money. So this professor tracked them for 30 years and tried to come up with, he called, habits which made the difference in their lives. Okay? So he said that top 3% of the graduates always wrote things down. They didn't just keep it in their mind, they would write it down. So they'll have a list of things to do and they'll prioritize it. The 97% would also have the list of things to do, but they would most likely have it in their mind. But the top 3% always wrote it down. So I kind of took the idea from him, and this is something mind-boggling. So he said, people who are methodical about their life and they write things down, in the business graduates, the top 3%'s habits led them to have net worth, which was more than 100 times the net worth of 97% combined. So,
Wow.
so meaning those 97% who weren't doing things the right way, their combined net worth, 100 times of that, these 3% had more than that because they were so much more successful. So in a way, it's a formula for success. So what I just talked about, if people can just learn to do something so simple, to write things down like your list of things to do, and then prioritize them. So you say, if I have 5 things to do today, number 1 is most important. That must be done first. And if number 5 didn't get done, I'll move it to tomorrow's list. Okay? But it won't be lost. I have my list of things to do going back all my life. I can trace back that so many years ago, I had 11 things to do and I only did 7 that day. 4 I had to do the next day, or whatever. So the next thing is to keep a tab on yourself to understand what brings you joy. So if you don't understand, I used to watch with my son a cartoon called Yogi Bear. And have you heard of that?
I have.
Sometimes it talks about things which are kind of educational. And in one time it said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up elsewhere. So now nobody wants to end up elsewhere because you don't know what that is. The point it was making that it's better for you to know where you're going. Because at least where you're going and you know where you're going, that's the place of your choice, not something unknown to you that you don't want. So this list of things to do, things which bring you joy, and things which bring you stress, it is so powerful. If you can learn to know these three things and not just keep it in your mind, but write them down, have a list. And you can look at the list every day and say, okay, nah, I want to add something to it, or I want to take something out of it. So now, these lists help you develop a perception in your life of who you are and what you think and how you feel about things. So it becomes a reality which is much more controllable than something you don't know where it is or what it is. So it's a very powerful technique, and if nothing else, it for sure is proven that it helps people to succeed in life by doing this simple thing, So might as well do it. So
yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that something really useful for that as well is what brings you joy is that a lot of us have, without even realizing, mechanisms to cope with stress that aren't so positive. A lot of us might turn to junk food or other, like having a glass of wine or a beer when you get home.
Exactly.
And by giving yourself and by giving yourself a list of things that bring you joy, you can swap out the more negative mechanisms to more positive, like going for a walk, even taking a breather in a situation, like you said, go to the bathroom, take a breath. That's sometimes all you need.
Exactly. Just a break.
To switch.
Yeah.